Open our eyes, Lord. We want to see Jesus. Please be seated. There's such an abundance of wonderful images here. It's almost as if the net of images is too heavy. It's almost as if there were at least 153 of them, and that we are straining to see all of them, to catch them all. I do not want us to lose sight of that wonderful imagery in the Gospel of Acts. Jim, it's not the Gospel of Acts. Yes, it is. The Gospel writer Luke wrote the second book, and the second book was Acts, and it just continued the first book. But it's still not the Gospel of Acts. Okay. I have these conversations with me regularly. She leaves the house when you say But that wonderful image, meanwhile, Saul, listen, I love this, still breathing threats and murder against the disciples. Arg! And then he is, as he is approaching Damascus, he encounters his bright flash from heaven, and he falls to the ground, and a voice says, Saul, why are you persecuting me? And if you remember your paintings, there's a wonderful, wonderful painting by Caravaggio of the conversion of Saul. It's just an extraordinary painting, and I hope you will look it up when you get a chance. The imagery is wonderful. And then when you are a person, as I have been, dealing with things in my life and struggling with anger and all of those things, the psalmist helps with these wonderful words, O Lord my God, I cried to you for help, and you have healed me. You think about the psalmist, and you think about the beautiful words of that. And then you hear this wonderful, wonderful line from the psalmist who says, your weeping may linger for the night, but joy comes in the morning. How extraordinary. The psalmist was a wise person. And then we have the revelation of John, the imagery of the myriads and thousands who are singing, worthy is the Lamb that was slaughtered to receive power and wealth and wisdom and might and honor and glory and blessing. Handel, as you know, knew what he was talking about. And every creature in heaven and on earth, in the sea and above the sea, to the one seated on the throne, to the Lamb, be blessing and honor and glory and might forever. And the four living creatures, the imagery is wonderful. The four living creatures say, Amen. And then Jesus shows himself again to the disciples by the Sea of Tiberias. Chapter 21, my brothers and sisters, of the Gospel of John, according to many of the commentaries, is actually an amendment to the Gospel of John, that the Gospel of John actually ended officially in verses 30 and 31 in chapter 20. Now Jesus did many other signs in the presence of his disciples, which are not written in this book, but these are written so that you may come to believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that through believing you may have life in his name. End of John. Oops. After these things, Jesus showed himself again to the disciples at the Sea of Tiberias. Let's let the academes argue over this as long as they wish. For me, chapter 21 is a vital piece of the spiritual message of the Gospel writer John. And it has a similarity, according to all of those folks that argue over the dots and cross T's and things like that in the written language. They argue about these things, and it has the same voice as the person who was writing before, and that's good enough for me. one of the oldest manuscripts that we have of the Gospel of John is the Papyrus 66. You're not writing this stuff down, are you? Because it doesn't matter much to you. But what it matters to me is that it was written sometime in the century following the century of Jesus Christ. It is one of the oldest, and it contains these words. And in it we see images, wonderful images, of Jesus standing on the shore, and the fishermen out in the sea. And Peter had said to everyone, I'm going fishing. My heart is breaking. I'm going fishing. And out he goes. And as they are fishing all night long, I try to imagine this. How many of you are fishermen? I know some of you really seriously are fishermen. I'm trying to imagine what you would think if you're fishing all night long and you can't catch anything out of your boat, and somebody standing on the beach says, well, try the other side. Fish are not over here. They're over here. And imagine what it would be like for you to go, okay, all right. He must know. He looks like a fisherman. So they throw the net on the other side and they get 153 fish. And then there's the argument over the number 153. Don't you just love this stuff? Don't you just, if you add 1 and 2 together and 3 went to that and 4 to that and 5 to that and you do that all the way up to 17, there's a logical number, you're going to get 153. It means a lot, my brothers and sisters. 153 people. They caught a lot of fish. And the net was heaving. And they brought them home. And there's Peter, of course. Peter, you just don't know what to think about Peter. There he is in the boat naked. But it was the custom to work that way in those days. And here is someone on the shore that is someone that we love, and someone of great power and glory and majesty and wisdom. And so he puts on his clothes because to be naked before someone that you honored would have been shaming. So he gets his clothes on and he jumps into the water, and which that also proves that people could swim in those days. Because implicit in that is that Peter survived. He got to the shore. And there another on the shore is this beautiful image of Jesus with this little brazier. A brazier with charcoal in it, and the fish are being cooked. How many of you smell fish cooking outside? Almost anything outside cooking on a charcoal grill is going to be wonderful. I have cooked flip-flops. And although they were slightly rubbery, they tasted okay. But to have that wonderful image of Jesus preparing the fish on this wonderful grill, and he is present. He is present. The first visit of Jesus after his death was in the upper room to the disciples. The second visit was to that Thomas. Visit again, and here is now the third visit. And what happens in this visit? In the second visit, Thomas says, "You are my Lord and my God." There is a declaration of the power and presence of God after the resurrection. And here we have something else that is being said. And what is that? What is that? Jesus looks Peter in the face. And I would like for you right now to take out the name Peter. And I would like for you to substitute the name that you call yourself. However you refer to yourself. Whatever name you give to yourself. Your own pet name. That person you call yourself when you may be even angry with yourself. I would like for you to substitute that name. Every time I say Peter, substitute that name. James, Peter, do you love me? Yes, Lord, I love you. What are you going to do about that? If you love me, you will feed my sheep. Peter, do you love me? Yes, I love you. Tend my lambs. Peter, if you love me, you will feed my sheep.